Well, as I mentioned at the top of the program last week, the Biden administration was holding up California as a model because the California Air Resources Board voted to eliminate the sale of gasoline and diesel powered vehicles by the summer of 2035. Now, that's kind of incredible. I mean, that's a very short period of time. Well, at the same time that they're making this announcement over the Labor Day weekend, they were telling people, hey, don't plug in your electric cars because our power grid can't handle it. And now, as of today, there are these threats of blackouts in California because they are facing a heat wave that is driving up the demand of energy. Now, to me, this lacks common sense. But I don't think I'm alone. Joining me now to talk more about this, former California Assemblyman Chuck Devore. Chuck, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you again.
Chuck, this doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, you're telling people you're going to eliminate gasoline-powered vehicles, but at the same time, you turn around and tell them, oh, we don't have enough power for those of you who already have electric vehicles to plug them in. I mean, it sounds like we're getting the cart before the horse.
Well, absolutely. This policy from the very beginning was driven by ideology. And as I've been fond of pointing out over the now, unfortunately, some 15 to 16 years, physics doesn't care about your ideology. The electric grid is based on harsh math. And either you've got generation to meet demand, or you don't. Either you have the transmission lines to get from the generation to where the demand is, or you don't. California has been, as you said, putting the cart before the horse. This is all about ideology, and it's not about actually running a modern industrial society.
But there's something even more alarming about it. I mean, again, this just lacks common sense. And look, I'm not against green energy. I love the environment. I love to be outdoors. I don't like pollution. I've been to countries that have pollution. However, I think we've made tremendous progress using technology to clean our air and our water, and I think we should continue down that path as well. But I don't think that we should drive up cost artificially by eliminating a reliable source of energy. But there's something else that's even more alarming than that, Chuck, and you've actually written about this, and this is while China is, getting ready for war, and they're using coal, and they're building more coal power plants, and they're doing everything they can to consume and acquire energy. We're focused on chasing this green dream that is making us vulnerable.
That's correct, Tony. Something dawned on me a few weeks ago as I was doing research coming out of this ban on internal combustion engines that California's Air Resources Board promulgated. And I started kind of pulling together some research I'd done in the past, including some of my scholarship on World War II and some of the energy concerns that drove that conflict. And I realized, quite to my surprise, unfortunately, more like alarm, that a lot of China has been doing is posturing their actions, kind of cloaking them in this green rhetoric. But if you look at what they're actually doing, they're building coal-fired power plants as rapidly as they can. China surpassed our consumption of coal around 2006, and they've never looked back. So we were equal in our use of coal to generate electricity around 2006. Today, China generates 5.3 times more electricity from coal than do we. And Tony, they have plans to create more than the entire U.S. grid's production of electricity by coal just in the next few years. So they'll be probably up to 6 or 7 times the amount of coal we use to generate electricity very soon.
And Chuck, they're probably going to be using that coal-provided energy to build the batteries and the solar panels that the U.S. is buying from them.
Well, yes, and that's not all. The thing that really began to alarm me when you look at common assumptions about what the U.S. can do to deter China's more aggressive behavior, for example, an attack on Taiwan or on our ally Japan. It's always been assumed that the U.S. Navy, with its allies like Japan, could quickly shut down China's ability to run its economy by importing oil. China, like we do, has a strategic petroleum reserve. Depending on what your assumptions are, it would last anywhere from 90 to 200 days. And after that, you would assume that China would be out of business. However, and here's where things got scary, you begin to realize that China's very aggressive adoption of electric vehicles is really more so to substitute their coal for imported oil. In other words, those electric vehicles in China are coal-fired electric vehicles. And the other thing they're doing, Tony, is they're taking a page from Germany's playbook before World War II, is they're beginning to massively invest in coal-to-liquid technology. Now, this is something that's been around for 100 years, but basically you can use coal to create very high-quality fuels and lubricants. And they're beginning to do that right now as well. And so these assumptions we've had about cutting off China, I don't think they're operative anymore. I don't think that they would collapse if we were to somehow blockade their imports of oil.
Well, mentioning that, we've talked about this back a month or so ago on the program, where out of our strategic reserve, which is supposed to be there, our oil reserve, when we face a national crisis, which we're now depleting to try to drive down the price of oil that has been driven up by bad policy, we're actually selling some of that to China. And they're adding to their strategic reserve as we're depleting ours. I mean, this, I cannot comprehend how someone can drive this type of policy that is benefiting someone who has declared that they are an adversary of ours.
Well, right, and it's being basically used up pretty quickly. Now, this policy did begin several years ago. Republicans controlled the House, and when we were rapidly achieving energy dominance, not just energy independence, but rapidly achieving energy dominance. And under Biden's policies, of course, that's been reversed. And you see people who are in the oil and gas industry have pulled back on some of their investment. They were uncertain. There was regulatory risk. And so you see U.S. production declining. And what the president and his advisors are trying to do is simply drive down the price of oil to win a midterm election. And in so doing, putting us, I think, in a very vulnerable position from a national security standpoint. This is unconscionable what is happening right now with America's Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
And unfortunately, too many people are not paying attention to it. They don't look beyond the price at the pump to the bad policies that are driving this and the policies that are putting our nation at risk. Chuck Devore, always great to see you. Thanks so much for taking time to join us today.